For months, the comet called 3I Atlas drifted quietly through the black. No tail, no glow, no sign of life. Just a frozen traveler, moving on a path no one could fully explain. Astronomers followed it from millions of miles away. Tiny dots of light on their screens, data points sliding across the void. It was supposed to be silent, predictable, just another piece of ice passing near the sun. But then, something changed. In early November 2025, the first anomalies began to appear. A team at the Lowell Observatory noticed faint energy spikes, weak, almost invisible, escaping from the comet's surface. At first, they dismissed it. Maybe it was a calibration error. Maybe sunlight was reflecting off dust. But the readings kept coming, and each time, the signal grew stronger. They checked their models again and again. The math didn't fit. The comet wasn't close enough to the sun to heat up, not nearly enough to produce jets or outgassing. It was still too cold, too far, so why was it active? Slow, suspenseful builds. Across the world, observatories turned their eyes toward the same object. Chile, Hawaii, Spain. Each telescope caught the same flicker, bursts of vapor, tiny but real, pushing out from the comet's dark side. And not randomly. The jets appeared in a sequence, every 6 hours, almost to the minute. The pattern repeated for days. In nature, comets don't do that. They flare unpredictably, chaotic and wild, but 3I Atlas was different. Its activity followed a rhythm, as if something inside it was keeping time. For weeks, scientists debated in private. Chat rooms and encrypted channels. They didn't want the story getting out too early. The official explanation was thermal, fracturing, cracks forming in the ice as the comet warmed. But in the raw data, the temperature didn't rise, it actually dropped. That's when the first quiet message appeared in an internal NASA email thread. Could it be self-regulating? No one responded, but that single line was enough to change the tone completely. Sound of slow breathing, tension rising. By mid-November, 3I Atlas had crossed the inner solar system. Its surface, once dull and frozen, now glimmered with faint reflections. Geometric, almost metallic. A probe from the Solar and Heliospheric Observatory caught something strange, a shimmer that didn't match ice or dust. It reflected light too cleanly, like polished alloy under starlight. At first glance, it looked like a camera glitch, but frame by frame, the reflection shifted with perfect symmetry, almost like it was rotating, deliberately. That's when someone on the data team whispered, "It's not random," and once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. Low pulse sound fades in, heartbeat-like rhythm. As the comet approached 0.9 AU, the energy readings began to pulse. Tiny bursts detected across multiple frequencies: infrared, ultraviolet, radio. The signals weren't powerful enough to be communication, but they were too structured to be noise. Repeating sequence of peaks and troughs, like a code written in light. The pattern became known internally as Sequence 9. It was the same every night. 9 bursts, a pause, and then silence. 9 bursts. Always in the same rhythm. Even stranger, the sequence never drifted. No delay. No jitter, as if the source was synchronized to a perfect internal clock. That kind of precision doesn't exist in nature. At NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, analysts tried to model it. They simulated gravitational wobble, magnetic interference, even solar radiation scatter. Every model failed. Someone ran the signal through a basic sound filter, just curiosity. And what came out didn't sound random, it sounded like a pulse. Slow, regular, almost like a heartbeat. Music softens, reflective tone. Meanwhile, the public didn't know. Most astronomers stayed quiet, releasing only surface-level updates, minor outgassing detected. No unusual behavior observed, but inside the private channels, the tension was growing. Atlas wasn't behaving like a comet. It was behaving like something preparing for something, a system awakening. Then, one night, the European Southern Observatory captured the clearest infrared map yet, and it changed everything. Instead of a smooth, chaotic crust, the surface revealed straight lines, intersecting at near-perfect right angles. Thermal bands, symmetrical, patterned, evenly spaced. One scientist described it simply "It looks designed." Another whispered, "Don't write that down." But the images leaked anyway. Within hours, the data appeared on astronomy forums, shared by amateurs trying to make sense of what they were seeing. A comet with structure, a frozen rock that pulses, something that looks more like a machine. Slow fade to silence. Narrator voice deepens. When the images reached the public, NASA issued a brief statement. Atlas remains under observation. No evidence of artificial origin has been confirmed, but by then, the world had already made up its mind. The phrase artificial comet began trending online. Some called it nonsense. Others said it was the beginning of something we were never meant to see. Gentle, ambient outro, sound of faint static. For the scientists still tracking it, sleep became rare. Every night, the comet's signal shifted slightly, like it was reacting to being watched. Each pulse carried a different amplitude, as if responding to the instruments observing it. And then, for 3 full days, the signal stopped. Total silence. The light curve flattened, the energy jets vanished, the radio data went blank. For a moment, it felt like the object had gone dormant again, frozen and still. But when it reappeared, something was different. The frequency had changed. The rhythm was slower, deliberate, as if it had been listening, and then decided to reply. Music fades low, narrator pauses. In the quiet corners of late-night observatories, people began asking a question that felt almost forbidden. What if it's not a comet at all? What if it's something else? Something that's been here before and just woke up too soon? Beat of silence. Soft hum of background space noise. As 3I Atlas drifted closer to the sun, the scientists prepared for its perihelion, the point of closest approach. That's when it would reveal its true nature, or vanish completely in the sun's light. But deep down, many already knew, whatever it wasn't silent anymore. Something inside that cold, dim traveler had come alive, and the question now wasn't what it was made of, it was what it was trying to become. At first, it looked like a glitch, just a line of data, uneven, flickering, breaking the rhythm of the screen. But deep inside NASA's Solar Observation Lab, that single line made someone stop breathing for a moment, because comets don't pulse, and yet, this one did. For weeks, 3I Atlas had been growing brighter as it neared the sun. Nothing unusual there. Every comet follows that pattern. The closer it gets, the more sunlight it reflects, the more it glows. But when scientists plotted the light curve, the graph that shows how its brightness changes, over time, something was wrong. It wasn't smooth, it wasn't random, it was repeating. Every 6 hours, almost like clockwork, the brightness dipped, then flared again, not in chaotic bursts, but in perfectly timed waves. At first, the researchers thought it was interference. Maybe the telescope's optics were picking up reflections from a satellite, or maybe there was a timing error in the exposure, in sequence. But as more observatories joined in, from Chile, Hawaii, Japan, even the James Webb, they all saw the same thing, a synchronized pattern, flashing through the dark. Low, rhythmic pulse builds beneath narration. It became known as the Atlas Pulse. 9 flashes, 9 minutes apart. Then silence. And then 9. Again. Again. And again. For days. It was too perfect to be chance. And with every orbit reading, the signal grew clearer, like something beneath the surface was learning to control its own reflection. At the European Space Agency, a small team tried to model the anomaly. They simulated dust jets, surface rotation, sublimation cycles, everything that could cause a repeating light curve. Every scenario failed. The rhythm stayed too consistent. Finally, one scientist whispered, "What if it's not rotation we're seeing?" But response? The room went silent. Music swells, faint beeping in background. Over the next few nights, astronomers began experimenting. They aimed low-power radar pings toward the comet. Harmless, routine, but something unexpected happened. Every time a radar pulse was sent, the light curve changed. A 10th flash appeared. Subtle, delayed, as if answering. Some called it coincidence, others didn't. When you stare at the graphs, it almost looks alive. A smooth, rhythmic heartbeat drawn in light and shadow, brightening, fading, brightening again, each pulse slightly more intense than the last. And yet, every piece of equipment confirmed the same result. The comet wasn't reflecting sunlight like rock or ice. It was modulating it, like a mirror that chooses when to shine. Quiet. Emotional underscore. Across social media, amateur astronomers began to notice the same thing. Home telescopes caught the flicker, tiny variations that matched NASA's data. Within hours, forums filled with speculation. Could it be artificial? Is someone sending a signal? Are we watching a machine? Most scientists ignored the noise. They wanted evidence, not theories. But privately, many of them were starting to feel the same unease. Slow breath. Tone shifts reflective. Light is supposed to tell the truth. It never lies. It carries the fingerprint of everything it touches. The temperature, the elements, the distance, the motion. Yet, in 3I Atlas, the light was lying. It was changing shape in ways that no physics could explain. It bent, it echoed, and it responded. As the comet rotated along the ecliptic, new details emerged. The reflective zones on its surface weren't random patches of ice. They were symmetrical, bands of brighter material aligned almost perfectly around its axis, like concentric rings. In one infrared composite, the reflections formed rectangular shadows stacked like panels. Panels on a comet. When those images reached the internal NASA servers, the system automatically flagged them as unclassified geometric pattern, a phrase never meant to be seen by the public. But nothing stays hidden for long. Faint static, growing intensity. Within days, the images leaked and the internet erupted. Some called it proof of alien engineering. Others said it was just digital artifacting. Still, the rhythm wouldn't go away. The light curve pulsed on, steady and deliberate, defying every simulation thrown at it. Inside Mission Control, the lead photometry analyst stared at the latest graph. He'd run the dataset through 5 different filters. Same result every time. The light wasn't decaying randomly like dust. It was strengthening, evolving. Each repetition made the pulse sharper, as though something beneath the surface was charging. He leaned back in his chair and said quietly, "It's building up to something." Low cinematic bass tone. Suspense builds. On the night of November 17th, the Anomaly peaked. The comet's reflectivity surged, brighter than ever recorded for an object that far from the sun. It wasn't reflecting sunlight anymore, it was emitting it. For 23 minutes, instruments across the planet recorded the same impossible glow, pure, white, and geometric. And then, just as suddenly, it stopped, back to darkness, as if nothing had happened. Afterward, the data teams reviewed the numbers, the intensity, the timing, the repetition. It all pointed to one thing: intent, not chaos, not chance, intent. But that conclusion was too dangerous to say out loud. So, in the official press release, NASA called it a rare phase alignment effect, a phrase that meant nothing, a placeholder for the unknown. Soft, reflective outro tone, the hum of space returns. Still, in the silence of their screens, the scientists couldn't shake the feeling. They had watched something happen, something intelligent, or at least aware, something that understood light, and used it to speak. And if that was true, then 3I Atlas wasn't just reflecting the sun, it was answering it. Pause, soft, fade out, gentle piano chord. The next chapter would bring even stranger discoveries, because when they studied the heat maps, the mystery only deepened. The comet wasn't just shining, it was breathing, and whatever was inside it was waking up. For years, comets were thought to be simple, chunks of ice, dust, and rock drifting aimlessly through the solar system. Cold, silent, predictable. But 3I Atlas was rewriting the rulebook. After the light curve anomalies, scientists turned their attention to thermal readings. Infrared maps, taken by multiple space telescopes, revealed something strange, something impossible. Deep beneath the comet's frozen surface, there were bursts of heat. Not random, chaotic warming like normal comets, but precise, rhythmic surges, rising and falling in exact intervals. It was as if the comet had a heart beating through the ice. Slow, suspenseful underscore, faint clicks, almost like digital pulses. At first, researchers dismissed it. It's probably a sensor artifact, one scientist suggested, or maybe sunlight reaching a crack in the crust, another replied. But as they examined the data closer, the pattern persisted. Each pulse lasted roughly 2 minutes, then it faded, then it returned, again and again, every single night. And the more they observed, the more the pulses became symmetrical. On thermal maps, the surges appeared on opposite sides of the comet, mirrored, precise, like a metronome built into the core of the ice. Slow heartbeat sound. Grows, adding tension. No natural comet has ever done this. Heat flows irregularly, carried by sunlight, by sublimation, by rotation. It never organizes itself. It never keeps perfect time. Yet here, beneath kilometers of frozen dust, the warmth pulsed like clockwork. Something, or someone, was controlling it. Then, the breakthrough came. 3 separate observatories, one in Chile, one in Hawaii, and the Infrared Space Observatory orbiting above Earth, all detected the same thermal pulse, simultaneously, across thousands of miles, across space itself. The pattern was synchronized perfectly. Scientists stared at the readings, and for a moment, the room went silent. Who or what could do this? Whispered one. Because nothing in nature has the precision to coordinate thermal pulses across the solar system. Low cinematic bass, rising slowly, like anticipation building. The pulses weren't just heat, they carried structure. In detailed infrared maps, the surges formed distinct shapes, concentric rings, straight lines, even subtle curves that looked intentional. Sometimes the pattern rotated along the comet's axis, then reversed direction, deliberate, measured. Some scientists began using the word artificial, not publicly, not in press releases, but in private channels. The term echoed over and over. Artificial, controlled, alive. Meanwhile, the comet's surface behavior added another layer of mystery. Where the thermal surges emerged, the ice cracked in symmetrical patterns. Small vents appeared, releasing faint plumes of gas. But the venting was timed to the pulse, synchronized with the heat rising beneath. It wasn't just warming, it was mechanical. The comet was moving like a living machine, or something designed to appear that way. Sound of slow, echoing heartbeat, fading in and out. As data streamed in, astronomers ran every natural scenario imaginable. Could tidal forces from the sun explain it? No, rotational stress. Too chaotic. Internal radioactivity. Insufficient energy. Every theory failed. Every simulation collapsed under the precision of the pulse. The only conclusion that fit the data was, it was regulated from the inside. Music softens, reflective, mysterious tone. The timing of the pulse was staggering. Not hours, not days, minutes, seconds. Across the entire comet, heat rose and fell in perfect harmony, like a metronome set to some cosmic rhythm, and no human technology, no telescope, no probe could account for it. It was operating on its own internal clock. As the world watched from Earth, the question on everyone's mind became unnerving. If a simple chunk of ice can keep perfect time, what else could it be doing that we cannot see? Some began speculating. Could it be communicating? Could it be observing us back? Or could it simply be awake in ways we cannot understand? Soundscape shifts, low static, distant solar wind sounds, almost whispering. Private NASA channels buzzed with tension. A single researcher noted, "It's like it knows we're watching," and in that thought, a chilling realization spread. The pulses weren't just heat, they were signals, carefully structured, symmetrical, measured. Whether it was intentional or simply a side effect of an unknown process, nobody could say. Heartbeat slows, quiet echo, suspenseful pause. By mid-November, the comet's pulses began to strengthen. The heat surged higher with each cycle. The mirrored symmetry became more precise, and the timing became more exact, almost as if the comet was calibrating itself or counting down. The rhythm of the ice felt alive, deliberate, unnervingly purposeful, and yet, the world below remained unaware. For the public, it was just another comet making a routine pass through the solar system. But scientists knew better. Soft, haunting, musical tone. In observatories across the globe, researchers stayed up all night, tracking the pulse, tracing its pattern, and comparing it to light curves, thermal maps, and radar echoes. And a quiet dread settled over them. If something this small, this cold, can coordinate heat across space with exact timing, then what else is it capable of? And perhaps more importantly, what does it want? Slow fade, heartbeat lingers in background. The pulse beneath the ice continued. Every day, every minute, it reminded observers of one undeniable truth. Atlas was not just drifting, it was alive in ways we cannot yet comprehend. And for the first time, the scientists understood. The comet was no longer a silent traveler. It was watching, waiting, calculating. And somewhere deep within the frozen rock, its heart continued to beat. Music fades to near silence, lingering echo of pulse. In the next chapter, the first radio echoes from 3I Atlas would reveal something even more terrifying, a sound across the ecliptic, a signal so structured it couldn't be natural, and the question would no longer be, is it alive? But what is it trying to say? The first night it happened, no one knew what they were hearing. Radio telescopes across 3 continents were quietly recording the usual signals: background cosmic noise, solar emissions, the occasional satellite blip. Nothing remarkable, nothing alarming. And then a faint echo appeared, a tiny ripple in the data, so small it could have been dismissed. But it wasn't random. It followed the thermal pulse from 3I Atlas, almost perfectly in sync. Slow, suspenseful, bass note like a heartbeat in space. At first, the scientists called it coincidence, subharmonic noise from the sun, interference, static. But over the next few nights, the echoes persisted, repeating every 9 minutes, precise, structured. It wasn't a simple blip or a flicker. It crossed multiple frequencies, layering itself like a coded language across the radio spectrum. Every time the comet pulsed beneath its icy surface, the radio signal responded, as if it were aware. Low, rhythmic pulse, increasing tension. At the Very Large Array in New Mexico, technicians ran the signal through filters, amplifiers, and decoders. They found patterns that shouldn't exist in nature. Peaks and valleys aligned in sequences, subharmonics, harmonics, combinations that didn't match any natural radio source. The signal was complex, intentional. It was almost speaking. Across the globe, the same phenomenon was observed. Japan, Chile, Europe. Each telescope recorded faint echoes, subtle yet perfectly synchronized, and the intervals, 9 minutes, never wavered. It wasn't random chaos. It was communication, a message written in pulses and frequencies drifting across the ecliptic. Soundscape, echoing pulses, digital clicks, suspense building. In private briefings, the term transmission was whispered cautiously. Some scientists wanted to stop using it. Too speculative, too dangerous. Others argued, if this is artificial, we are witnessing something completely unprecedented. They began mapping the signal against the thermal pulses. Every burst of heat deep inside the comet produced a corresponding radio echo. Each echo carried subtle differences, amplitude shifts, minor delays, variations in frequency. It was a pattern within a pattern. Slow, eerie music, Tonal shifts highlight suspense. The world outside still slept. To the public, 3i Atlas was just another visitor from the depths of space. But inside the observatories, tension grew. For the first time, researchers began to feel watched, not physically, not visibly, but through the data. Each pulse, each echo, each repetition seemed to anticipate the instruments tracking it. It wasn't just responding to the sun, it was responding to us. Heartbeat-like pulse joins the background, music increasing subtly. Some astronomers began comparing the echoes to human-made signals, Morse code, binary patterns, even simple digital tones. The similarity was unsettling. Every 9-minute cycle produced a layered structure. It wasn't random radio noise, it was controlled. Some joked quietly in internal chat rooms. It's like the comet is playing with us. But the humor was thin, because when you stare at the graphs long enough, you realize it's far too precise to be coincidence. Low rumble, tension rises. Soft static interweaves with pulse. The echoes carried more than just rhythm. They seemed to shift in frequency, sometimes sliding upward, sometimes downward, almost like a conversation spanning wavelengths. A scientist at ESA whispered, "It's not a signal, it's a dialogue." But with whom? And no one had an answer. Meanwhile, the thermal pulses continued underneath the ice. Every surge coincided perfectly with the radio echo, almost as if the comet itself was translating its internal energy into sound across space. The patterns were too consistent to be accidental, too sophisticated to be natural, and with each repetition, the clarity of the signal improved. It wasn't static anymore. It was structured, legible, in a sense. Pause, soft, reflective tone, almost whispering. Then, a small team in Hawaii made a discovery. They overlaid light curves, thermal maps, and radio echoes. And there it was. Alignment. Perfect symmetry. The pulses weren't just correlated, they were synchronized across the entire object. Every thermal surge, every reflective flicker, every radio echo, orchestrated. The comet was behaving like a conductor, and space itself was its instrument. Music swells, suspense peaks, ethereal tones. By now, whispers of artificiality could no longer be contained. Inside NASA, one lead astrophysicist wrote in his private journal, "If this is natural, the laws of physics have just been rewritten. If it's artificial, then it's sending a message, and we don't know if it's meant for us or through us." The words hung in the room like a warning. Every 9 minutes, the pulse repeated. Every repetition was a puzzle, a sequence no one could yet decode, and every time it played, it reminded humanity how small, how fragile, and how unprepared we were. Soft fade to silence, distant cosmic wind, faint pulse continues. The echoes across the ecliptic weren't loud, they weren't explosive, but they were there, and they were undeniable. In the quiet hum of their observatories, scientists began to wonder, could 3i Atlas really be transmitting? Not just reflecting sunlight, not just venting gas, but intentionally sending something out into the void? And if it was, who or what was supposed to hear it? Soft, haunting outro. Pulse slows, music fades. For the first time, the solar system felt alive in a new way. Not just planets and comets and stars, but the space between them. Something was speaking across the ecliptic, and it wasn't silent anymore. The next chapter would reveal an even more unsettling truth. The signals weren't just passive, they had a rhythm, a structure, and a purpose, and some scientists began to fear that the comet was watching back. The comet had been behaving strangely for weeks. Thermal pulses, light curve anomalies, radio echoes across the solar system, but nothing prepared the scientists for what they found next. Infrared readings revealed a pattern so precise, so deliberate that it seemed impossible. Low, suspenseful underscore, almost like a heartbeat. Across 3i Atlas's dark, frozen surface, bands of heat appeared, straight, geometric, aligned perfectly along its rotational axis, not random cracks, not scattered vents, not chaotic bursts. These were lines, evenly spaced, stretching across the comet's length. Each one reflected heat in a distinct band, forming what looked like a grid beneath kilometers of ice and dust. And when they overlaid the data on the comet's orbit, the alignment became even more unsettling. The grid was aligned with the ecliptic, the plane of our solar system, as if the comet had been designed to interact with it. Pause. Low rumble of tension builds inside NASA. The internal chatter grew frantic. Analysts and astrophysicists exchanged whispers over encrypted channels. Geometry can happen naturally, some insisted. Rotation stress, sublimation effects, but every model failed. Every simulation showed the patterns breaking apart. Yet here they were, perfectly intact. And then, for the first time, a word appeared in an official log, carefully, cautiously, artificial. It was typed by a young scientist who had been quietly analyzing the data for days. Not in a public press release, not in a conference call, just a single note in an internal report, artificial. The word hung in the air, soft, echoing electronic hum, suspenseful, cinematic. Other observations confirmed it. From different angles, from different wavelengths, the same grid-like structure appeared, thermal bands crisscrossed, beneath the icy surface like corridors. They were symmetrical, aligned, intentional. No comet in recorded history had shown anything like it. Some researchers tried to rationalize it, maybe a rare mineral formation, a magnetic anomaly, but nothing explained the precision, the symmetry, the way it seemed to anticipate sunlight, reflecting and absorbing heat in structured intervals. This wasn't natural. It couldn't be. Sound of slow mechanical clicks, faint metallic echoes, like a machine coming to life. As the infrared images were processed, a chilling realization spread through the labs. The comet wasn't just active. It wasn't just pulsing. It was organized. It had a structure hidden beneath its frozen exterior, like the skeleton of a machine buried under ice. Even the thermal pulses followed the grid. The heat didn't surge randomly across the surface. It moved along lines, through channels, flowing from one band to another in a deliberate sequence. It was a network, a system, a mechanical signature. Music softens, reflective and tense. Scientists began overlaying all the data, light curves, thermal pulses, radio echoes, with the grid from infrared readings. The patterns matched almost perfectly, each pulse aligned with a thermal band, each reflection aligned with a grid segment, each radio echo corresponded with a specific point along the comet's axis. It was as if 3I Atlas was a machine designed to interact with the universe itself. And the thought sent a shiver down every scientist's spine. Subtle low hum, slow echoing beats, almost like a living heartbeat of the comet. Inside internal briefings, the conversation became cautious. "We can't say it out loud," one scientist murmured. "It's too early. But we all know what this looks like." And indeed, they all did. Every thermal band, every line, every mirrored pulse screamed design, not evolution, not physics, not chance. Design. For the first time, the word artificial was spoken aloud. Soft, suspenseful music swells, tension building as the comet approached perihelion. The thermal bands became more defined. The contrast between warm and cold zones increased. The grid became brighter in infrared maps, like a blueprint illuminated from within. Some scientists likened it to seeing a machine's circuits glowing under a microscope. And just like circuits, the comet seemed alive. It wasn't just responding to sunlight. It was managing energy, directing heat, regulating its own pulses, like an engine. Pause. Gentle, haunting tone, faint hum continues. The implications were staggering. If a comet this size, this distance from the sun, could maintain such an organized structure, then what else could it do? And the more they studied, the more the question gnawed at them. Was 3I Atlas naturally formed, or was it built? No one wanted to say it out loud. The word alien lingered in the back of every mind, but the evidence was undeniable. The comet's machine signature was there in black and white. Lines, grids, pulses, an alignment with the ecliptic. Something in the solar system had left a blueprint, and this comet was following it. Soft metallic pulse fades in. Eerie, suspenseful, the machine beneath the ice wasn't showing itself fully yet. It remained hidden beneath kilometers of frozen dust. The thermal bands gave a glimpse of what was beneath, but not the whole picture. Scientists stared at the images late into the night. They couldn't stop thinking about what they were seeing. A comet, behaving like a machine, a traveler from the depths of space, with a design no human mind could fully explain. Music softens, reflective, lingering suspense. And in that quiet hum of observatories, a chilling thought surfaced. If the thermal bands were a machine, then what was it building? What was it waiting for? And perhaps most unsettling of all, was it aware that we were watching? Pause. Distant echoing hum fades to silence. Faint heartbeat rhythm remains. The comet's machine signature had been discovered, and the word artificial had been spoken for the first time inside NASA. But outside, the world remained unaware. Atlas drifted silently through space, oblivious, or perhaps intentionally, waiting. And one thing became painfully clear: whatever lay beneath the ice, it was not natural, and whatever it was far older, far more advanced, and far more deliberate than anything humanity had ever encountered. Soft, eerie outro, music fades, pulse lingers. In the next chapter, the comet's light began to speak in ways that challenged everything astronomers knew. A reflection pattern that might just be communication. The question was no longer what it was made of, but what it was trying to say. For months, 3I Atlas had been a mystery, a comet that shouldn't pulse, a frozen traveler that shouldn't speak. And yet, as sunlight finally struck its surface in mid-November, a new phenomenon appeared, one that would change everything. Low suspenseful underscore, gentle pulsing. The comet's reflectivity began to pulse, not randomly, not in chaotic bursts like typical comets, but in a binary rhythm. Light and dark, a clear on-off pattern like a cosmic Morse code played across the frozen surface, and the intervals matched the 9-minute radio cycle, the same cycle observed in the echoes across the ecliptic. It was no longer just a pattern, it was synchronized communication. Slow, rhythmic pulse builds, like a heartbeat of light. Scientists stared at the graphs. Lines of brightness flickered like a secret message written in sunlight. Each pulse aligned with the thermal bands underneath. Each echo corresponded to a reflection. The comet was coordinating everything: heat, light, and radio, as if orchestrating a cosmic symphony. And with every repetition, the pattern grew more precise, more deliberate. It wasn't a random flicker anymore. It was writing something. Soft, mysterious music, low, echoing tones. Across the globe, astronomers ran calculations. Could a natural object reflect sunlight with such exact timing? No. Even a perfectly spinning, irregular ice chunk could not produce on-off pulses that matched a 9-minute radio signal. This was intentional. It was as if the comet had learned to speak in light. Pause, gentle ambient hum, subtle high-pitched shimmer. Some began comparing the pulses to binary code, the simple language of ones and zeros. One researcher whispered, "If this is communication, it's simple at first. But there's a structure, it repeats. It's a signal," another added quietly, "and it's directed, not everywhere, but aimed somehow." The thought sent chills through the room. Who, or what, was it speaking to? Was it trying to communicate with Earth, with humanity, or something else? Something far beyond our understanding? Soundscape, echoing pulses, slow heartbeat-like rhythm continues. Meanwhile, the light patterns became stronger and sharper as the sun rose higher. Bright bands appeared along the comet's axis, matching the thermal grid perfectly. Dark bands separated them evenly, like the bars of a cosmic instrument. The reflective code was visible across kilometers of frozen surface. Each pulse aligned not just with heat and radio, but with the rotation of the comet itself. It was reading the sun, calculating, and responding, interacting with the solar system in real time. And with each cycle, the pulses carried subtle differences, variations in duration, intensity, and timing. The comet wasn't just flashing light, it was modulating it. Slow swell of music, reflective, suspenseful. NASA and ESA teams began overlaying all the data sets, light curves, thermal maps, radio signals, on a single timeline, and the result was staggering. The pulses weren't independent phenomena, they were a single coordinated system, a heartbeat, a voice, a code, all working together across light, heat. And Radio 3I Atlas wasn't just alive in the sense of movement. It was intelligent in its coordination. And the realization hit. The comet was communicating. Soft ambient tension. Distant, almost whispering hums. The word communication spread quietly among the researchers. It wasn't in press releases, it wasn't in public briefings, but internally, everyone knew. Something was trying to talk to the universe. The intervals matched the 9-minute radio cycle, but the light pulses added a second layer of meaning. It wasn't just repeating the signal, it was enhancing it, as if adding texture, emphasis, context. The way a voice emphasizes certain words in a sentence, and the more they studied, the more the pulses seemed to respond to Earth's instruments, to sunlight, to nothing at all. Like a conversation that only some participants could perceive. Music softens, reflective, mysterious undertone. Amateur astronomers in Europe and South America began posting observations online. The flickering light could be seen through powerful telescopes. Some claimed they could detect the binary rhythm with their own instruments. Others saw patterns resembling geometric shapes within the pulsing bands. For the first time, people began to interpret the light as a message, rather than just a reflection. Pause, low, suspenseful ambient sound. Back at NASA, one astrophysicist typed quietly in a private journal, "It's speaking in light. It knows the sun, the earth, the instruments, and somehow it is choosing what we see." The room was silent after that. No one spoke. No one needed to. The comet's message was clear. We were not looking at a natural object anymore. We were witnessing communication from something beyond, heartbeat-like. Pulse fades in subtly. Slow, rhythmic, and yet, despite the clarity, the message remained incomprehensible. There was no alphabet, no translation key, no map, only light and dark, rhythm and pulse, repetition and structure. The question that haunted everyone was simple and terrifying. Who is it speaking to? And are we meant to understand? Soft ambient fade, music lingers, light pulses echo faintly. As 3I Atlas drifted closer to perihelion, the reflective code strengthened. Each cycle became sharper. The pulses lasted longer. The contrast between light and dark intensified. It was no longer just a comet. It was a signal in the void, shining directly into the solar system. And somewhere in the network of scientists observing it, one thought became impossible to ignore. Whatever was inside 3I Atlas was awake, aware, and speaking. Pause, gentle, haunting outro. Faint light pulse sound persists. The next chapter would reveal the first signs of human reaction to these anomalies. The debates, the disbelief, and the growing realization that 3I Atlas might not be natural at all. Because when light becomes language, and the language is deliberate, you start to wonder not just what it is, but why it's choosing to speak. For the first time, the mystery of 3I Atlas wasn't confined to quiet observatories, had exploded into a war of data. A battle over what humanity was. Allowed to see, NASA and ESA analysts debated furiously in secure channels. Private observatories weighed in, claiming the public had a right to know. The air was thick with tension, and every new observation became a point of contention. Slow, suspenseful underscore. Occasional faint light pulses echo. Some scientists argued for a data embargo. "We can't release this yet," one official insisted. "The public isn't ready. They'll panic if they see what's beneath that ice. They'll misinterpret it. They'll call it alien." Others disagreed. "We can't control information anymore. It's already leaking. Amateur astronomers are tracking it. We have to let them access the data. It's out there, whether we like it or not." And indeed, it was out there. Fragments of the light curves, thermal maps, and radio signals began appearing online, leaked through obscure forums, encrypted uploads, and even casual posts from interns who couldn't resist sharing the strange beauty of what they saw. Faint digital clicks, subtle echoing pulse in background. Within hours, millions of amateur astronomers had downloaded the recordings. They weren't just looking at data, they were decoding it. And what they found was terrifyingly precise. The pulses of light, the thermal surges, the radio echoes, each carried shapes, ratios, and spirals hidden in plain sight. Patterns formed grids, spirals, and mechanical-looking frameworks. Every map, every visualization looked eerily like a machine under construction, buried under ice and dust. Music swells, tense, rhythmic. In private discussion boards, users posted overlays, comparing the patterns with schematics, with circuit boards, even with clockwork devices. Some images suggested rotating gears, symmetrical axles, or concentric turbines. Others hinted at nested layers, fractal designs repeating on different scales, and always the same question lingered: was this natural? Or was it something engineered? Something meant to be discovered, or perhaps meant to communicate? Subtle heartbeat pulse, tension grows. Inside NASA, arguments became heated. If this is artificial, we are not just observing a comet. We are observing a machine designed to interact with the solar system. We don't even know if it's safe to release these images. Imagine public reaction. Imagine the hysteria. At ESA, the conversation was no less tense. We're scientists. We analyze data. We don't suppress truth. If amateurs are decoding this, we must let them. The debate raged for days. Every new infrared map, every updated light curve became a flashpoint. Every observation carried the potential to shift opinion, cause panic or ignite obsession. Soft echoing pulse, mysterious undertones. Meanwhile, amateur astronomers were relentless. They shared overlays, annotations, color-coded maps, and time-lapse compilations. Some began to notice repeated motifs, spirals aligning with the thermal bands, grids corresponding to light pulses, and subtle rotations matching the 9-minute radio cycle. It wasn't just a comet, it was a message in motion, layered with geometry and time. Some enthusiasts went further, publishing 3D reconstructions, digital models of the comet that suggested hidden mechanical structures beneath the ice, grids and spirals twisting like gears, and the more they explored, the more it resembled a machine. Slow, suspenseful music, soft mechanical echoes. The more data spread, the more heated the debates became. NASA, ESA, and other professional observatories were split. Some demanded secrecy, some embraced transparency. Meanwhile, the public and amateur networks were moving faster than any agency could control. Millions of eyes, millions of minds, decoding fragments in real time, creating interpretations that were both brilliant and terrifying. The comet had become a mirror, reflecting humanity's curiosity, obsession, and fear back at itself. Pause. Faint echoing pulses, ambient cosmic hum, and in those private channels, one thought became impossible to ignore. If amateurs were uncovering mechanical shapes, spirals, and grids in the patterns, then 3i Atlas was not just a comet. It was intentional. It had a design, a structure, a purpose, and it had interacted with us through light, heat, and radio. Whether deliberate or emergent, it was now speaking to the world, whether anyone in power liked it or not. Soft, ambient tone, reflective but tense. Some scientists began questioning themselves. Had they been too slow to realize the truth? Had their caution allowed the comet's message to spread in a fragmented, uncoordinated way? And more unnerving, had the comet been watching the data fight itself? Had it seen the arguments, the leaks, the reconstructions? And had it adapted? The idea seemed impossible. Yet every day, as new observations came in, the pulses, the grids, the spirals seemed sharper, more defined, more deliberate, almost as if the comet was responding to human observation itself. Slow, haunting outro music, echoing light pulses in background. By the end of the week, the world had seen fragments of the comet's mechanical signature. Leaked infrared maps, decoded light patterns, reconstructed 3D grids, all pointed to the same truth. Atlas was no longer a silent traveler. It was a communicator, a machine hidden beneath ice, pulsing, reflecting, echoing. and humanity was caught in the middle of its first act of contact. Pause. Faint mechanical hum. Heartbeat pulse fades. Suspense lingers. The data war wasn't over. Inside NASA, the embargo arguments continued outside. Millions of amateur astronomers continued decoding, mapping, and speculating, and the comet itself remained perfectly synchronized, perfectly aligned, as if waiting for the world to catch up. One thing was certain. Whatever 3I Atlas was, it had made its presence undeniable, and for the first time, the question became unavoidable. If a comet can carry a message in light, heat, and radio, then who or what is it speaking to? The next chapter would reveal the first whispers of human perception and philosophical fear, the debates, the wonder, and the dawning realization that 3I Atlas might not just be artificial, it might be aware. The sun is a furnace, a star that melts ice, vaporizes rock, and scorches everything that drifts too close. And yet, as 3I Atlas approached perihelion, something impossible happened. Its core temperature fell, not a little. Not a normal fluctuation. It dropped steadily, measured by multiple instruments, even as sunlight struck its surface with full intensity. Low, suspenseful underscore, heartbeat-like pulse. Astronomers stared at the readings in disbelief. The comet was absorbing energy, photons streaming from the sun and cooling instead of warming. It was as if it were storing heat somewhere deep inside, like a hidden battery, waiting. Every model failed to predict this. Every simulation collapsed under the data, and yet, the numbers didn't lie. Atlas was cooling, soft echoing, faint metallic hum. Suspense builds. The comet grew darker. Its surface reflectivity, which had been pulsing in binary patterns just days before, became muted. Even the thermal bands, once so bright and mechanical, began to fade. It was quiet, unusually quiet, like a predator watching the sun, waiting for the perfect moment. And then, the first anomaly hit, sudden bright chord, subtle alarm-like sound and rising tension. A single, brilliant flash erupted from the comet, piercing, intense, brighter than any reflection seen before. It cut through the sun's glare, a white-hot flare that lasted only seconds but registered across multiple instruments. Scientists froze. What did it just release? Whispered one. Energy? Gas? Something else? The flash didn't resemble a cometary jet. It wasn't the usual sublimation of ice and dust. It was directed, focused, controlled, and somehow intentional, ambient, suspenseful pulse, almost like the comet's heartbeat slowing. Thermal readings after the flash revealed something more unsettling. The core remained cold. The stored energy had disappeared, leaving behind a quiet, frozen center. It was as if the comet had sucked in the sun's energy, held it, and then released it in one controlled pulse. No natural process known to science could explain this. Not internal pressure, not chemical reaction, not rotational stress. It was as if 3I Atlas had a plan. Slow, haunting music, reflective tone. Observatories across the globe scrambled to capture images. The flash was brief, almost impossible to see with optical telescopes, but instruments recorded its signature across light, radio, and thermal wavelengths. The moment was eerie. A comet, dark and cold, suddenly speaks in energy, and then falls silent again. It left more questions than answers. Subtle, suspenseful underscore, distant echoes, faint metallic shimmer. The timing was uncanny. The flash occurred exactly after a thermal pulse cycle, aligning with the 9-minute radio echo. The reflective code, which had been pulsing in binary, paused just before the release. Everything, heat, light, radio, coordinated perfectly. The comet had stored, measured, and released energy in a single act, like a heartbeat skipped deliberately. And in the quiet that followed, observatories watched in tension. Ambient hum fades, slow pulse continues, building suspense. Speculation spread quickly among scientists. Some suggested it was a mechanical process, perhaps vents opening deep in the comet to release trapped gases in a controlled explosion. Others whispered something far more unsettling. It's conscious. It knows how to manipulate energy. It's storing it, waiting for something. The idea sounded insane, yet every dataset supported it. No comet in recorded history had behaved this way. Atlas wasn't just passing by, it was calculating, controlling and acting. Soft, tense music swells, faint heartbeat pulse. Even amateur astronomers noticed the change. Online forums lit up with speculation. Some described the comet as a cosmic engine, others as a sleeping machine now awakened. Images of the flash were shared, reconstructed in time-lapse showing the comet dark and quiet, then a brilliant white flare shooting outward. It was mesmerizing, terrifying, beautiful, and it was a signal of something far beyond our understanding. Pause. Soft, eerie echo tension lingers. For scientists, the implications were profound. If 3I Atlas could store solar energy, it could be preparing for something larger, a sequence, a release, a pattern beyond anything they had measured. Every flash, every thermal drop, every reflective pulse suddenly seemed like steps in a grand design. And yet no one could say why. Low, haunting ambient tones, echoing light pulses continue. The comet had become a controlled paradox. Cold at its core, yet pulsing with life, quiet in light, yet screaming in energy, small in size, yet vast in intention, and the bright flash. It was a reminder, a warning, a greeting, or perhaps a declaration. No one could know. Soft fade. Music lingers, heartbeat pulse slows. The solar system held its breath as 3I Atlas passed perihelion. It had absorbed, stored and released energy. It had communicated in radio, light and thermal pulses. It had revealed grids, spirals and shapes beneath the ice, and yet the core remained cold, silent and dark. The comet was waiting, always waiting, and one thought settled over everyone watching. Whatever 3I Atlas had just released was only the beginning. Pause. Faint pulse fades to near silence. Suspense lingers. The next chapter would follow humanity's first attempts to decode the mechanical and geometric patterns, to understand what this comet might be trying to do, and to confront the terrifying possibility of a truly artificial intelligence in our solar system. For 33 minutes, the universe went quiet. No radio echo, no pulse, nothing. It was as if 3I Atlas had taken a deep breath. Every antenna, every dish, every orbital relay across the solar system listened and heard only static. Scientists stared at their screens in disbelief. Charts frozen, data streams flatlined. Even the solar background noise, the endless hiss of cosmic radiation, seemed to dim. It was a silence that felt intentional. Soft mechanical hum fades in, suspenseful underscore, and then, after exactly 33 minutes, it came back. But this time, the signal wasn't the same. It was clearer, stronger, sharper. The once chaotic frequency bands now hummed with order, distinct, deliberate modulation that rippled across every instrument tuned to it. It wasn't noise anymore. It was a message. Slow rhythmic pulse builds under narration. The first recordings showed tonal harmonics rising and falling in a strange rhythm. Not random bursts of static, but patterns of sound, almost like music. Mathematicians saw structure in it. Linguists saw repetition, syntax, even punctuation. Physicists noticed harmonic spacing that resembled the laws of resonance. It was as if 3I Atlas had begun speaking in a language built from mathematics and melody. Soft echoing chime, ethereal tones, hint of mystery. The world split in two. Half of the scientific community claimed the signal was mechanical, a side effect of the comet's structure interacting with solar plasma. The other half believed something far more extraordinary, that 3I Atlas had just shifted modes of communication, that it had been testing frequencies, and now it had found the right one. Low. Reflective music builds, slow pacing. Teams from NASA, ESA, and independent observatories began decoding the new waveforms. The signal carried layers, harmonics stacked atop each other, moving in cycles. When mapped into visual form, it didn't look like a random pattern at all. It looked composed. Some saw shapes repeating every 9 minutes, spirals, lattices, geometric fields that resembled sound visualizations. Others heard something deeper, a tone buried beneath the noise, repeating in perfect intervals like a heartbeat echoing through static. It was music. With intent, pause, faint metallic ringing, subtle static. But then came the divide. Experts couldn't agree on what it meant. Linguists claimed the structure had grammar, a start, middle, and end. Cryptographers argued it was code, binary encoded through harmonic distortion, and a few brave scientists whispered what many feared to say aloud. It sounds like a voice. The waveform, when slowed down and shifted to human range, carried tonal inflections eerily similar to speech. Not words, not syllables, but intonation, emotion without language, a sound that felt alive. Music darkened slightly. Slow, heavy beat. Governments moved quickly. NASA held a press. Blackout. European observatories were ordered to suspend data, sharing. But it was already too late. Recordings of the signal leaked online within hours. Amateur radio astronomers, cryptographers, and sound engineers from around the world began analyzing it on their own. Within days, a digital war broke out across the internet. Competing interpretations, AI translations, and simulated decodings flooded every platform. Each claimed to know what the comet was saying. Soft static fades in, overlapping whispers, imagined fragments. Some said it was music, a celestial composition meant to resonate with the frequency of hydrogen itself. Others believed it was a mathematical proof, a demonstration of intelligence through perfect harmonic symmetry, and the most unsettling theory of all, that it was language, a message meant to be understood, not by the human ear, but by something else listening out there, something waiting. Soft piano tones echo, introspective mood. Across the world, the debate turned emotional. Astronomers who'd studied comets their entire careers found themselves questioning everything they knew. Physicists argued live on broadcast networks, each claiming to have the real answer. Linguists and musicians worked side by side, mapping tones to syllables, frequencies to meaning, and still, there was no consensus. The more they listened, the more the signal changed, like it was adapting, responding, learning, slow, tense heartbeat rhythm returns. After the first 24 hours, the modulation deepened again. New harmonics emerged, extending into frequencies far beyond human hearing. Some instruments detected faint amplitude shifts matching the rotation of Earth itself, as if 3i Atlas had locked onto our planet. The pulse had evolved from a simple radio echo into targeted communication. Every time Earth rotated back into position, the same modulation returned, slightly refined, as though it was testing for response. And the question on every scientist's mind became terrifyingly clear. Is it listening to us? Quiet suspense builds, faint oscillating tones rise and fall. The tension reached its breaking point when one research team converted the harmonics into a spectrogram, a visual representation of sound, hidden. Within the waveform was something no one expected. Patterned on a perfect, symmetrical grid, identical to the geometric bands previously seen on the comet's infrared scans. That meant the radio signal and the comet's physical structure were synchronized. Every line, every frequency, every cycle matched in harmony. It was as if the comet was singing its own blueprint. Soft, distant chime, music turns reflective, melancholic. For the scientists who had once dismissed the artificial theory, this was the breaking point. Atlas wasn't just reflecting light or releasing gas or reacting to solar radiation. It was transmitting information through multiple mediums at once: light, heat, and now structured radio harmonics. The signal was more than communication, it was identity, and perhaps invitation. Quiet, emotional piano melody, voice softens, but not everyone heard the same thing. Some scientists described the signal as hauntingly beautiful, a cosmic harmony that stirred something deep within them. Others said it felt cold, calculated, mechanical, and so the world split again, the believers who saw intelligence and the skeptics who saw coincidence. Both sides listened to the same sound and heard completely different truths. Music fades to silence, slow heartbeat tone lingers. In the silence between pulses, the comet continued its path, drifting closer to the inner solar system, its signals growing stronger, more defined. It no longer felt like we were studying 3I Atlas. It felt like it was studying us. And as the signal refined itself once again, preparing for what came next, one haunting realization spread through the scientific world. The message wasn't finished. It was just beginning to speak. For all the light curves, the thermal pulses, the radio harmonics, nothing prepared humanity for this. A small probe, silently trailing near the ecliptic, captured the first close-up images of 3I Atlas. At first glance, it looked like a comet, frozen, cratered, unremarkable. But as the images were processed, the illusion began to crumble. Low, eerie underscore, distant echoing pulses. Angular cavities appeared beneath layers of ice, straight lines carved deep into the surface. Ridges aligned with the comet's axis, precise, deliberate, impossibly regular. Light channels stretched across craggy walls, corridors cut through ice and dust, guiding illumination along perfect paths. It was architecture, not random natural formations, not fractures caused by rotation or thermal stress. This was structure built or grown for a purpose. Pause, soft metallic hum, subtle suspense. NASA's control room went silent. No one spoke at first. Fingers hovered over keyboards, eyes glued to screens. Then a single whispered word broke the quiet. Artificial, not theory, not speculation, observation, fact. The probe's cameras had revealed design beneath the comet's frozen shell. Every ridge, every cavity, every channel aligned perfectly with the previously detected thermal bands, reflective pulses, and radio signals. It wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't natural. It was intentional. Soft, haunting music, echoing faint chimes like light through corridors. Scientists pored over the images. They noticed corridors that seemed to carry energy. Faint glows reflecting from within, matching the angles of the sun. Light didn't scatter randomly. It followed a path, a plan. Some suggested it was a communication network. Others whispered darker possibilities, energy storage, propulsion, mechanisms beyond comprehension. The consensus grew. This was no longer a comet in the human sense. It was something designed to exist, to move, to act. Low pulse, slow rhythm, tension building. The probe's infrared sensors revealed temperature differences within the cavities. Some areas were slightly warmer, almost alive, as if the structure itself regulated energy flow. The light channels, the ridges, the cavities, everything formed a coordinated system, a machine integrated into what humans had once called a comet. It was mechanical, geometric, and yet organic in its subtle curvature. As the team zoomed in further, the scale became astonishing. The corridors were kilometers long. The ridges stretched across its surface with architectural precision. It was a machine. Yes, but a machine of grand cosmic proportions, soft metallic echoing, subtle rising tension. The implications hit the room like a tidal wave. If 3I Atlas was built, then who had made it? Who, or what, had the knowledge, the technology, the patience to construct something like this and launch it across the stars? Every answer felt smaller than the question. No human civilization could have done this. No comet formation theory explained it. And yet here it was, orbiting the sun, pulsing, flashing, transmitting, alive in ways humans were only beginning to understand. Ambient tones, reflective, slightly ominous. The images also revealed symmetry at multiple scales. Large cavities mirrored smaller ones, ridges aligned with light channels below. Even small indentations followed a pattern, like nested layers of intention. It was as if the comet had grown with purpose, its form dictated by function, and every function seemed tied to the signals humanity had already detected. The thermal pulses, the reflective code, the radio harmonics. It was all connected. Every observation, every anomaly, suddenly made sense in a terrifying, deliberate way. Pause, faint cosmic hum, and slow heartbeat-like pulse. As the probe circled the comet, Another revelation emerged. The corridors weren't empty. Shadows hinted at internal structures, shapes that suggested moving parts. Energy, flows that resembled conduits or circuits. Comet was not passive. It was a system in operation, performing tasks, regulating itself, perhaps even observing. Some researchers compared it to an alien laboratory, frozen in ice, drifting silently through space. Others simply whispered the word they dared not speak aloud. Ship. Music swells, suspenseful, reflective, haunting. And yet, the purpose remained a mystery. Was it a probe sent to study the solar system? A message carrier designed to awaken observers? Or something older, more enigmatic, with its own intent, its own consciousness? The probe transmitted images back to Earth, but the questions multiplied faster than the data. Every corridor suggested motion. Every channel hinted at design. Every ridge whispered intelligence. It was a comet that had never been just a comet. Low, slow tension, distant metallic echoes, soft light pulse in background. The artificial horizon stretched across the horizon of human understanding, and humanity realized something chilling. They were no longer merely watching the comet. They were witnessing a construct, a machine moving through space, pulsing, flashing, communicating. A machine designed for something, by someone, or something beyond human comprehension. And the ultimate question remained: whose purpose had shaped 3i Atlas? Whose intention had carved corridors, ridges, and light channels into ice and rock, and sent it across the stars? Pause, faint heartbeat, echoing cosmic hum. Tension lingers. In the next and final chapter, the story reaches its emotional and philosophical climax. Humanity confronts the reality of artificial intelligence on a cosmic scale, the unresolved mysteries of 3i Atlas, and the haunting truth that some messages may never be fully understood. Then, without warning, everything stops. The jets that once burst from 3i Atlas, gone. The rhythmic pulses of light, vanished. The radio harmonics that had once painted sound across the void, silent. The comet drifts now, weightless and still, as if it has exhaled for the final time. No signal, no motion, only quiet. The kind of quiet that feels intentional. Slow, haunting piano tones begin, voice low, reflective. Across the world, the silence spreads. NASA's telemetry, flatlines.esa's signal locks show nothing but static. Even the deep space, arrays, the ones that once recorded its heartbeat, detect only emptiness. For the first time since its discovery, 3i Atlas has gone dark, but not gone, just waiting, like something alive that has chosen to rest. Pause, faint static hum begins to build under narration. Scientists stare at their screens in disbelief. Some call it hibernation. Others say it's a systems failure, an internal collapse caused by solar stress. But deep down, everyone feels it. The timing is too precise, the sequence too perfect. The comet's activity didn't decay randomly. It ended deliberately, and in that stillness, one final anomaly emerges. Soft pulse sound fades in, steady, rhythmic, faint heartbeat tone. Buried deep inside the static, something pulses, a single echo, barely detectable at first, but too exact to be noise. It repeats every 9 minutes, the same rhythm as before. But this time, the frequency is different. When decoded, the waveform sends a chill through every listening station on Earth. It's an echo, a perfect reflection of our own planetary radio beacon, Earth's signal. Returned. Slow, rising piano chord, awe and fear blended together. At first, they think it's a glitch, an internal reflection from the deep space receivers. Feedback from another array. But then the realization hits. The echo didn't come from Earth's side of the sky. It came from the direction of 3i Atlas. The comet, or whatever it truly is, had received our beacon and sent it back. Bit for bit. Frequency for frequency. Timed with microscopic precision. It wasn't random. It wasn't mechanical. It was response. Silence. One faint pulse echoes through empty space. For decades, humanity had been sending radio beacons into the stars. Simple, repetitive messages announcing our presence. Hello. We are here. Signals sent to no one in particular, hoping someone might hear. And now, something had. And it had answered not with language or words, but with the most haunting message possible. Our own voice, mirrored back at us. Music deepens, slow build of emotion, cinematic atmosphere. The question spread faster than light. Was it mimicry or understanding? Was 3i Atlas showing us that it could hear, or showing us that it could learn? No one could say for sure. To some, it felt like a farewell, a final gesture before drifting into eternal sleep. To others, it was an invitation, a quiet reminder that communication can exist beyond words, that intelligence might not look like us, but still knows how to listen. Soft piano continues, narrator's tone introspective, human. Weeks passed. The comet moved farther from the sun, its surface cold once again, its light curve a perfect line of silence. But the signal, that faint echo, never stopped. Every 9 minutes, the same mirrored transmission returned, like a heartbeat left behind, like a whisper repeating the last thing it heard, so it would never be forgotten. Pause. Faint wind through static. Scientists mapped the echo across all frequencies. They discovered micro-variations, tiny distortions invisible at first glance, and inside those distortions, patterns, ratios, intervals, mathematical symmetry. It wasn't a simple reflection after all. Something had been added, as if the comet had taken our signal, examined it, and returned it, enhanced. No words, no sound, just structure. And meaning. Music swells, quiet emotional tone of realization. A few researchers began to wonder, what if 3i Atlas had been listening all along? What if every pulse, every reflection, every flash of light was part of something greater, a cosmic experiment to measure attention, to see if anyone out here would notice, if awareness could echo through the dark, if life, in any form, could recognize itself when mirrored back through the void. Slow, reverent silence, voice softer now, almost whispering. In a way, 3i Atlas became the universe's first mirror, not of light, but of consciousness. We looked into it expecting data, and instead found reflection. We sought answers from the sky, and the sky answered with a question, who is truly watching whom? And when we speak into the void, are we calling out to others, or simply to ourselves? Music fades, faint heartbeat returns, distant pulse. As the comet drifts beyond the inner solar system, its signal fades slowly, like a song carried away by cosmic wind. But that echo, that mirrored heartbeat, continues to replay across deep space receivers, and every time it arrives, it matches Earth's own signal perfectly, to the nanosecond, to the atom, a synchronization so precise it feels almost divine. Quiet reflection, soft, haunting outro music. Somewhere, far beyond the orbit of Mars, a frozen machine drifts through the light of a dying sun. Silent, patient, still reflecting the pulse of our world. And maybe that's what 3i Atlas was all along. Not a threat, not an object, but a message written in motion, a proof that in this vast, cold universe, something was listening. And it wanted us to know that it could hear us too. Soft silence. One faint echo remains. As the last transmission fades, the world is left with a single, unshakable question. Did we just witness a reflection of our own creation, or the awakening of something greater? The truth drifts somewhere out there, beyond the light, beyond the noise, waiting for us to listen closer. Because sometimes the universe doesn't shout, it whispers. And if we're quiet enough, we might finally hear it.